Hello everyone, and welcome to the Astro Consciousness channel. I'm Millie, and I am here to give you your forecast for the week of May 5th through the 11th. In this channel, we talk about the astrological energy of the week ahead and how you can integrate it into your personal and spiritual growth. So let's talk a little bit about how Taurus season has felt, um, how we are moving into the month of May. And so, if you listen to last week's forecast of the new moon in Taurus, which, by the way, the week of the 5th, we are still very much under the influence of, and the week ahead of May 5th is very supportive if you are still taking action on the things you know you need to take action on. Taurus season is showing us that it's not here to mess around, right? It's not here to waste time. Everything is asking to be intentional. Our words, our decisions, our thoughts, our actions, because the months of March and April were the months of deliberating, were the months of deciding, were the months of thinking of things, going back and forth, considering the pros and the cons. And so now here we are in a brand new month like May. It's a good month if we are being productive. Now, this is where the concept of productivity is actually really great, right? Because especially on social media, right? The concept of productivity is starting to be seen like through a negative lens. And the fact of the matter is that I think what's missing there is from what space within you are you being productive? Are you being productive for the sake of keeping busy, escaping the things that you might not want to deal with? Are you being productive in your life or in your work or in some way, shape, or form in any part of your life so that you are noticed, so that you are chosen? Okay. That's a different place to create from. That's a different place to be productive from. But when we are productive towards something that we want, towards something that is asking for our action with intention, that is very different. Because from that space, we're not just being productive for the sake of doing, for the sake of being chosen, for the sake of being noticed by others. This is us actually co-creating the reality that we want to live, the reality that we want to materialize, Taurus season, right? Into this 3D reality, right? And so I think it's really important to understand that because there is a force to this Taurus season that I think we're going to just feel it the entire season. And mind you, this week of May 5th is leading up to a full moon in Scorpio that takes place next Monday, May 12th. Okay. Now, you will get the forecast for that next Sunday. But as I've always said, I've said this leading up to many full moons. The week leading up to a full moon tends to be rather intense, especially a full moon in the sign of Scorpio with the aspects that it's going to have. But even the energy of intensity is neutral in some way until we direct that intensity, until we give that intensity meaning, right? So if you are experiencing some drama, some chaos, some, codependent behavior, some control issues, manipulation issues, that is what this full moon in Scorpio of next week, that's what this upcoming week of May 5th is going to show you. But it's showing you what's already there. It's showing you the intensity of some of the things that still need to be taken care of, right? Especially when it comes to relationships, personal relationships. Now, if we are using that energy of force, if we are putting that intensity towards something creative, towards building something, towards, again, the intention to materialize something in your life that is sustainable, that's different. And this week is actually really lovely for that. Okay. So We begin the week, Monday, May 5th, with Mercury sextile Jupiter in Gemini. Okay, so here we have Mercury, the planet of communication, cognitive thought, the planet of visualization, right? The planet of how we perceive our life, how we perceive our reality. It's in the sign of Aries. On the one hand, this is asking us to be direct, to be clear, to say the things that need to be said, not just to others, but with ourselves, right? Because the clarity that we have with others will always, always begin with the clarity that we have with ourselves. So Mercury in Aries is asking us, are you focusing on the things that are a priority that need to come first, right? Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. What is a priority in your life right now? And the sextile to Jupiter and Gemini is lovely, lovely. Okay. A few ways that this can manifest for you. I love this because, again, it's a week leading up to a very intense full moon. But this aspect of Mercury sextile Jupiter can bring good news. It can bring a much positive way of thinking of things. It's very solution oriented. It is an aspect of good news, right? Whether you're giving good news or receiving good news, it is an aspect of possibility, right? You're communicating, whether it's to yourself, to another, or to the universe. This is what I want. This is what I desire. These are the solutions. These are the options. Remember, Jupiter and Gemini is an abundance, Jupiter, of options, Gemini. Okay. So you want to be mindful that if you are being intentional with the direction that you're headed in, you're going to say, okay, there's 10 different options. I'm going to deduce it down to 3 different options. And from those 3, I'm going to choose one. What I mean by that is that you want to use the Taurus season energy to be very practical, keep things very simple. One of the greatest gifts of Taurus energy is simplicity. It reminds us, keep things simple. What is the simplest way possible to do this? What is the most direct way of doing this, right? And so with the Jupiter and Gemini, that becomes really important because we don't want to get stuck in, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about that one thing? And then it becomes a massive waste of time, right? We don't want to waste this beautiful energy of a Mercury in Aries, which is sharp, which is direct, which is excited, which is a catalyst for something new, sextile Jupiter and Gemini, which says, there are so many different possibilities, but when I keep things simple, this is the possibility that I want to go towards. This is what I want to give my ideas to, my creativity. This energy of fire and air, right? Aries and Gemini is very creative, and it's energy that comes quickly. So if you are in talks of negotiations, if you are, having certain conversations with people, this is about keeping things clear, making sure that you're making your point. And remember, this is why it's so important that you are clear within yourself first. Okay. So when it comes to signing documents, great week for that. Especially as we lead towards a full moon, there is an element of like culmination, finalization, a turning point. And this Mercury Jupiter sextile is just so, so lovely for that. Tuesday, May 6th, we have Venus in Aries, sextile Pluto in Aquarius. Such a lovely aspect, another lovely aspect, okay? So one of the things we have to keep in mind with sextiles are an aspect for the most part of ease, but sextiles are an invitation. Unlike oppositions, conjunctions, or squares, where those aspects carry energy of tension, emergence, amalgamation, it can feel very forceful, very strong. Sextiles are an invitation of saying, here is the energy available. How are you going to take advantage of it? How are you going to work with it? Sextiles really are kind of like the universe's way of saying, remember, you have free will. You get to decide where your thoughts go, where your energy goes, your time, your effort. That is the beauty of you having free will, that you get to decide. And here's another thing, just before I move into Venus sextile Pluto, Taurus season is asking us, get very real, get very honest. No one is responsible for how you feel, how you're doing. You are the only one responsible for how you're feeling at this moment in time. You are the only one responsible for what is unfolding at this moment in time for you. The reason that I'm stressing this is that this is what Earth energy is about. Earth energy is very much about getting your ish together, right? And with that needs to come a certain dose of a very healthy dose of self-responsibility in all aspects of self. When we do that, when we do that, when we come back to ourselves, we are able to connect with the deeper parts of us that allow us to actually manifest the scenarios, the circumstances, the relationships, the job, whatever we want, right? Because we're coming back to self. Does it happen overnight? Not always, not for everybody, but the practice is to be coming back to self. And the beautiful thing about it, about Earth energy, about Earth seasons, is that when you take action and when you are responsible in that way, the materialization comes, right? But it requires a radical coming back to self. Why is this important? Because Venus in Aries, Venus, the ruler of the season we're in, which is Taurus, is sextile Pluto. This is beautiful because when it comes, again, to negotiations, to money, when it comes to weighing the pros and cons of things, there's a lot of clarity there. There's a lot of this is the potential for a lot of confidence. A sextile, remember, is an invitation. How are you going to take advantage of this energy? And Venus sextile Pluto is almost like the underdog being underestimated, right? It's like no one sees you coming, but you've been grinding, you've been working, you've been focused, you've been, avoiding the drama, avoiding the chaos, releasing yourself from energies, from relationships that drain you, right? You've been coming back to self, keeping your thoughts as positive as possible, not from a place where we are escaping, but from the understanding I still get to create something. I still am creating my life. I still have my home, my family, my relationships, and those things matter. This Venus sextile Pluto also carries this energy of showing you the strength of your relationships at this moment in time if you have been truly focusing on them, like family, friendships, professional relationships across the board, right? And Venus in Aries, especially because Venus has come out of that retrograde, is is this feeling of like a new beginning. We're starting anew. We're coming out of the woodworks, out of the clouds of that Venus and Pisces, very romantic, very creative, or very delusional, right? Or very much in denial, wherever it is that, however it is that you experienced it. And now Venus and Aries is saying, no, I'm clear. No, this is what I want. No, this is how I'm moving forward. And the sextile to Pluto is saying that's actually quite magnetic. That's actually very attractive. That's actually very powerful. Remember, Venus is the essence of magnetism. Venus is the essence of femininity, of receptivity. And so, a lot of the ways in which we attract that which we desire, especially with a sextile in Pluto, is that we embody the essence of that which we desire. And I think that this week is going to show us a lot of that. So here we have Monday and Tuesday starting off really well. If you, again, if you have any kind of money negotiations, if you're looking for some kind of loan this week, if you are looking for work, have interviews this week, have, I don't know, creative sessions with a team, it's such a beautiful week to be confident, to surround yourself with people who believe in you and your dream and the vision, whatever that is, to look for solutions. Don't take no for an answer, but also don't force anything. This is the energy of, you know what? That no is a redirection because I know that my yes is out there somewhere. Beautiful energy. Wednesday, May 7th, we have the moon in Virgo trine Uranus and Taurus. Okay, so this is interesting because here we have the moon getting ready, right, to be full over the next couple of days and meeting Uranus. On the one hand, it's a moon in Virgo, so we are minding the details, we're minding the day-to-day, we might find ourselves very busy. Be mindful that if you are beginning to feel overwhelmed with either your daily tasks or your thoughts, that you ground as much as possible. Because remember, we're going towards a full moon. So we're going to feel things much more intensely. Be very, very, very mindful of the internal critic. I have noticed that when we are leading towards full moons or a particular full moon in Virgo, the inner critic gets very loud, right? Because the lower expression of Virgo is a very harsh critic. Now, if that's what's coming up for you, the trine to Uranus and Taurus, Uranus always represents liberate yourself from that. What is it that you're giving your time, energy, and attention to that is activating, that is triggering the inner critic? And so when you pay attention to that, when you ask yourself those questions, you can ask yourself, wait a minute, are the things that I'm doing, the thoughts that I'm having, the things that I'm choosing to focus on, are they aligned with me? Are they aligned with my heart? And if they're not, if I'm coming from a place of obligation rather than devotion, then where do I need to readjust certain things, right? The moon trine Uranus is this point, highlights a point of emotional liberation, and the Virgo energy is going to be very helpful in discerning where you are aligned or misaligned. That is the beauty and one of the gifts of Virgo energy, discernment. That's why Virgo is known as the sign of being able to see the details that no one does. Because really, more than just seeing the details, it's this ability to discern what's what. On a more practical perspective, expect, the unexpected a little bit. Maybe your plans change in a way that you hadn't expected. You had a meeting with someone and then they cancel last minute, or something happens within yourself that you say, oh, I can't make it anymore. So just being mindful of that. Okay. I usually don't go over the moons, but this is really important. On Thursday, May 8th, the moon is transiting the sign of Libra, and it's going to do so for 2.5 days. So through Thursday and Friday and half of Saturday, right? You want to pay attention to what the moon in Libra shows you in relationships as we move towards a full moon in Scorpio, okay? This moon in Libra is going to emphasize a lot of the stuff that came up in March and April around relationships. And it's going to show you, are we having the same arguments? Are we having the same conversations? How do I feel about it at this point in time? Because we're moving towards a full moon in Scorpio, there is an element of no more. There is an element of, I can't do this anymore. I can't have the same fight. I can't have the same argument, right? I can't continue having these same thoughts. Because of the nature of that full moon in Scorpio, there is an element of severing something, right? And let's say that this isn't like a permanent severance of some sort. And I use that word to sever because it is actually a scorpionic turn. But let's say there is just this clarity of no more of this. And so you begin to think about the types of boundaries that you want to place in certain relationships, right? Pay attention. This isn't anything to predispose yourself with. This is just an understanding of some of the relationship dynamics that we're still working with. On a more practical perspective that has nothing to do with personal relating, this moon in Libra is asking you to pay attention to how much are you giving to something? Is it giving you, something back in return that feels either balanced or like it's equal, right? So how much work is there? How much of an output of work do you have, right? And is the return on investment worth it, right? If you if you are going on job interviews, if you are negotiating certain things, especially if that has to do with money, right? Lots of Venusian energy in the air, which is why I keep bringing up contracts, negotiations, money, lots of Venusian energy in the air. So does this feel fair? Does this feel right? Does this feel balanced? Can I afford this, right? If I take this on, what else am I willing to let go of, right? Now, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to begin cutting things out of your life from a place of lack, especially when it comes to finances. You want to begin to ask yourself, how much does this thing that costs me money give me in return? And try not to measure it just by the material. Try not to measure it just by the amount of money that is left in your account. But does it feed your soul? Does it educate you? Does it allow you to connect with different people from different parts of the world? Does it give you back in more than just tangible ways? Because when we are relating to money, relating to abundance and prosperity, this isn't just about the number in a bank account. This is about how are the things that I am exchanging energy with and for feeding me as well in a way that helps me feel abundant from the inside out, feel prosperous from the inside out. Okay? This is really important because with it's very easy to get into a place or a mentality of lack with everything happening in the world and to go into a state of fear when it comes to the relationship to money, when the fact of the matter is that you are the one that has all of the power when it comes to your relationship with your money. And a lot of the times, the concept of abundance or prosperity has nothing to do with the amount of money, but the relationship that you have with your money, the relationship that you have with the concept and the feeling of abundance and prosperity. We are moving again through a year like 2025 where everything is being redefined, right? And so, how are we redefining the things in the relationship to things in our life versus those things being redefined for us, versus us continuing to be programmed in a certain way to stay at a certain level? Be very mindful of what you're paying attention to and make sure that you yourself are being discerning about your own personal power. Because remember, self-responsibility implies that you are the authority, the author in your life and the outcome of it. Okay. All right. Friday, May 9th, we don't have much going on. Then on Saturday, May 10th and Sunday, May 11th, we are under the influence of Mercury entering the sign of Taurus. I love this. I love this so much. Mercury also had a very gnarly retrograde period, right? In the middle of eclipse season. So much of Mercury in Aries, even when it came out of retrograde, we've just been kind of like trying to settle things down in our minds. Oh, this is my new reality. This is what I'm going after. This is who I really am. We've been trying in some way, shape, or form in certain areas of our lives, or maybe our entire life, trying to ground. This Mercury in Aries is going to solidify that. But here's the thing. The sun moving through the sign of Taurus has been showing us no more lying to ourselves, no more being in denial. What are the things you need to do? What are the actions that you're taking? What are you doing to materialize? Mercury and Taurus is going to repeat that. Mercury and Taurus is going to remind us, right? The mind is going to remind us of stay focused, right? Don't mind the drama. Don't mind the chaos. Taurus is the sign of value. Taurus is the sign of worth. Value your thoughts. Make sure that you are valuing where you are putting your time, your energy, effort, and thoughts, right? Mercury and Taurus, again, more themes around money, more themes around negotiations, more themes around budgeting, more themes around, what is worth keeping or who is worth keeping in my life, who is worth, right? My effort. Mercury and Taurus is also going to bring over the next couple of weeks really solid, grounded conversations. And we'll talk about these more as the weeks come on, but Mercury and Taurus, if this has to do with relationships, depending on where relationships are in your life, this can make for two people sinking in their heels and saying, nope, it's going to be my way. And then the other person saying, nope, it's going to be my way. Well, okay. If that's where you're at, pay attention. What is that saying about the relationship? Is it worth the time, energy, and effort? Nothing new. On the other hand, if we are in relationships that are looking to come out of a stagnant place, come kind of start anew, build something together, right? Mercury and Taurus is going to be great for that. It's very motivating. It's very practical. What do we have to do? Who do we have to ask? When do we need to start? Look, Earth signs, Earth seasons exist so that when it is time to implement and do, we are implementing and doing from a place of soul. Doing does give us confidence because hopefully we are coming out of previous seasons of learning how to choose ourselves. And Mercury and Taurus, Mercury, the planet of communication, is saying, how are you communicating to yourself, about yourself, for yourself, from a place of groundedness, from a place of worth, from a place of value? Right? So think about those themes. Again, if you are negotiating a salary, if you work for yourself and you want to increase your rates, if you are looking for a job, if you are looking, to live somewhere new, take advantage of this Taurus season that can feel like, oh man, like I need to do something, but it is sometimes we need to do. Sometimes we do need to take action. And there's something really beautiful about that because we are at this moment in time, so many of us are coming out of certain patterns. So many of us are coming out of certain family dynamics, certain ways of thinking. Like we really are shedding the old identity. And that will continue, but the beauty and the gift of this Taurus season is to say, how are the things that I'm doing? How is how I'm showing up to life on a daily basis, honoring my sense of worth, how I value myself? And Mercury in Taurus is going to continue bringing that up. One final thing I'll say is you want to pay attention to that weekend of May 10th and 11th. Interestingly enough, it's Mother's Day, right? That Sunday, May 11th, at least here in the United States. We have a full moon in Scorpio on Monday, May 12th. Pay attention to the intensity, right, of certain relationships, especially female dynamics. Mercury and Taurus can make for very stubborn conversations if that's something that exists in your family dynamic. If not, this can make for a very lovely, supportive, homey type of weekend. Okay. So, as always, may this be of service. It's so great to be on camera again. And I will talk to you next week. So much love to you.